The biggest mortgage collapse since 2008 just got even worse, with mortgage applications to buy a house now down by 44% from pre-pandemic levels, suggesting that homebuyers continue to remain on strike and that this housing downturn still has a long way to go before buyers come back in. With the Mortgage Bankers Association Mortgage App Index now plunging all the way down to an index level of 131 and now resting at the lowest rate since 1995. And this is the potential scary thing for the housing market in 2024 going into 2025. It's the fact that there's been no bounce back in buyer demand from lower mortgage and interest rates. The 30-year fixed mortgage rate is now down to 6.4%, and yet home buyers are still on ice, and home prices, they're now dropping across many cities. For instance, take a look at this listing in Dallas, everyone. It's a 3-bed, 3-bath, 1,600 square feet, where the seller has cut the price from $525,000 down to $487,000. However, take a look at the Zillow value estimate, everyone. 2 years ago, this estimate peaked at $615,000, and now Zillow says this house is worth $466,000, a 25% reduction in value, which now puts it back at its April 2021 value level. And we're just seeing more and more anecdotal examples of this across the housing market, everyone. You guys can let me know in the comment section below if you're seeing these estimates dropping in your neighborhood, but particularly in Texas, Florida, Arizona, Utah, Colorado. In those states, we're seeing a lot of the pandemic appreciation get wiped away on certain listings. Here's another example, everyone, near Phoenix, a 3-bed, 2-bath on the market for $342,000. You can see the owner, who's an investor, bought this house in March 2022 for $360,000 and is now trying to sell it 2 years later for $340,000. So the investor has already taken a $20,000 loss. Of course, on a national basis, home prices are still at a record high, and they're still actually going up year over year on a national basis, according to the Case-Shiller Home Price Index, due to the fact that inventory is still really low in states like California, Illinois, New York, and New Jersey. However, the longer that this mortgage collapse goes on for, the more that we're going to see inventory levels press up and home prices go down. Because I want to show you guys just how historic this mortgage collapse is. We have really not seen anything like this before in the last 30 years in terms of these rock bottom levels in home buyer interest in buying homes. And to understand this, folks, I want you to look at this table, which tracks the mortgage application index, which is data from the Mortgage Bankers Association. This is the best real-time indicator of home buyer demand in America, everyone. It's updated every single week, and it's telling you how many buyers are applying for mortgages to buy houses. You can see the index here in late August 2024 was 132 index, which was 9% below last year, 34% below 2022, 49% below 2021, 57% below the pandemic peak in August 2020. But here's the real kicker, everyone. 44% below August 2019 and 43% below August 2018. So we are 44% below normal pre-pandemic levels in mortgage applications to buy a house. This table shows you just how bad the current demand environment is. And the reason the current demand environment is so poor is because buyers out there, you guys watching this channel, you want nothing to do with current home prices and mortgage rates. And in fact, I polled you guys and I asked you the question, how much do home prices need to drop in order to entice you to buy in this market? And I just actually put this poll up, everyone, and 1,000 of you have already voted, and the results, they're shocking. A massive 65% of you are saying home prices would need to drop by over 30% in order to entice you to buy. Meanwhile, only 6% of you said you're buying at current prices, only 3% of you said you would want a 10% drop, 13% of you said you would want a 20% drop, and another 12% of you said you're not interested in buying at all. So in combination, 77% of you are either waiting for a 30% drop or are not interested in buying. Now, my viewership here on YouTube is a pretty good cross-section of home buyers, real estate investors, and just regular people who are tracking the market. And so that's telling you just how far we are from reaching an equilibrium where buyers come back in, sales go up, and mortgage applications increase. And I think the thing that a lot of people are starting to realize now in the housing market is that it's about home prices. It's not about mortgage rates. That you go on Zillow and you look at a listing and you say to yourself, this makes no sense. Like, folks, I know I talk a lot about how prices are now starting to go down in Florida, but still, on a lot of listings, if you just go on Zillow and you pull it up, you see it here, a 3-bed, 2-bath house on the market for 450 grand, and you see, oh wait, look at it, a flipper bought it back in May for 315,000. They slapped together some renovations. It probably cost, I don't know, 50 grand, 60 grand, and they're trying to make a quick buck on it. And people just don't want to deal with this after 3 years of inflation, record low savings rates. People don't want to overpay for a house. And that's the one thing that's actually kind of different in this housing cycle compared to the one in the mid 2000s is I think home buyers are a lot more educated this time around. I talk to a lot of you guys out there. I'm actually meeting a lot of you down here in Florida. Some of you see me on the street and you shout and you say, "Hey, Nick," and we talk, and it's a similar conversation a lot of the time. You guys say, "Hey, I've been looking to buy a house for the last year or two. I've been watching your channel. I'm looking at the prices and I'm seeing things are maybe getting a little bit better, but we're just not close to the level where I would still spring and purchase." However, I do think there's going to be positive movement for you would-be home buyers in the next 6 months. I think we're going to see prices drop over the next 6 months in many parts of America because I'm going to be watching for what happens after the Fed cuts interest rates in mid-September. We all know that the Fed's going to do a rate cut in mid-September at this point. And I think what's going to happen after that rate cut is that we're going to see basically like minimal to no bounce back in home buyer demand. And when that happens and becomes obvious to everyone, I think we'll see sellers really start to panic a bit and capitulate and give up some of their equity because a lot of sellers are still holding out hope that it's the Fed rate cuts and lower interest rates is just going to cause buyers to come back in and prices to go back up. But the longer that we go on for in this environment where mortgage rates are dropping and buyer demand's dropping at the same time, the more that idea is going to be extinguished and the more that sellers are going to be forced to cut the price. So I just want you to take a look at this graph, everyone. It's important you understand what's going on in the market right now. The yellow bar is the mortgage purchase application index. The blue line is mortgage rates. And so what you can see is that mortgage rates have dropped from a high of 7.8% in October 2023 down to 6.4% in late August. So that's actually a pretty big drop in mortgage rates on a relative basis. Now, even as these mortgage rates have dropped, you can see that the mortgage applications have continued going down. And this is the key point that's scary, I think, for a lot of potential sellers, is that the rates are dropping, anticipating Fed rate cuts, but there's been no reignition in buyer demand. If we were to see an improvement in the market, we would see these mortgage applications go up. But thus far, it's not happening. And the sweet spot that I think we're going to need to hit to bring buyers back into the market is a monthly mortgage payment of $2,100 a month for the average home buyer across the US. That is what I have determined is the sweet spot where we're going to see buyers come back in. If the monthly payment goes down from around $2,700 a month where it is today to $2,100 a month, roughly a 20% decrease, I think we will see buyers come back. However, in order to effectuate that change, everyone, here's what we'll need to see. We will need to see a mortgage rate of 5.4%. A mortgage rate of 5.4% combined with a 15% reduction in home prices. If we get that, then we would see the monthly mortgage payment for the typical home buyer across the US would drop to $2,100 a month. And this to me is the level where we'll start to see meaningful improvements in buyer demand. I'm not saying we're going to go back to the pandemic where it was crazy buyer demand. I'm not even saying we're going to get back to 2019 home sales. But to me, this is what we need to see. A $2,100 a month monthly mortgage payment, which is recognized by this blue line here. That's what we're going to need to see. Currently, we're at $2,700 a month. It's a big gap to get to this blue line. Once we get to this blue line, it'll kind of be like the mortgage payments will be fairly tracking with income and inflation at that point. I think this is when the buyers will come back. But again, we're just a far away from that happening. Mortgage rates are going to need to drop by another 100 basis points, and prices are going to need to drop by 15%. So for me, that's kind of my prediction. I know I got a lot of realtors and mortgage brokers watching this channel as well. You're saying to yourself, when am I going to see more business? When am I going to see more buyer activity? That's what needs to happen. Massive improvements in affordability, both from declining prices and mortgage rates that drop even more. Now, everyone, before signing off, I want to show you something. I want to show you a new data point here that I have added to Reventure app for you guys. And this is a data point that's going to really help you in terms of understanding how much money you need to buy a house in different neighborhoods. And this data point is called salary needed to afford a house. It's the household income needed to comfortably afford to buy a house in the area at current home prices and mortgage rates using the 30% cost convention. And here we're looking actually at downtown San Francisco, and you see you need to make $376,000, $429,000 to afford to buy a house in downtown San Francisco. This is one of the most expensive areas in America. And more broadly across California, salary needed to afford a house is 200 grand across the state. The most expensive state in America. So you need to make 200,000 a year to buy in California. But conversely, you look in a lot of these Midwest and Deep South states, it's much, much lower. Even in this housing bubble today in 2024 in Arkansas, you only need to make 53,000 in order to buy a house using the 30% cost convention, and that you don't spend more than 30% of your gross income on mortgage payments. In Kentucky, it's 55,000. In West Virginia, it's 43,000. In Iowa, it's 63,000. In Oklahoma, it's 55,000. And so I know I've talked a lot kind of before about the Midwest and Deep South, everyone. If I were to buy in today's market, which I'm not, I would be looking in these areas here, in some of these metros, in Arkansas, in Oklahoma, into Alabama, maybe up into Kentucky. This is where the salary needed to afford a house is a much more affordable level. And one cool thing you can do with this data point, everyone, is you can track the salary needed to afford a house versus the median income in the area. So you see this gray line's the median income here in Louisville, Kentucky. The median income is still higher than the salary needed to afford a house, which is one reason why Louisville's housing market has performed better. However, if we go down to somewhere like Florida and look at Tampa, you can see for a long time the median income was higher than the salary needed to afford a house, but now it's the flip situation. Salary needed to afford a house in Tampa is 100 grand, median income is only 72,000. So the fact that this green line is way above the gray line, that's telling you this market's in a bubble. It's telling you buyers are going to stay on the sidelines until more affordability comes in, lowering that monthly mortgage payment. You can track that salary needed to afford a house data across every state, metro, county, and zip code in America on ReVenture app. Go to www.reventure.app and sign up for a premium plan at $39 a month to do the research on your housing market, see where you can afford, and also research some new states and metros to see areas that would be a better option.